Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be here this morning to address this very important and distinguished group here. I have recently returned from Washington, D.C., where we had the privilege of hosting Foreign Minister Dr. Fuad Hussein and his 15-member delegation. This was a historic visit. It was the first higher coordinating committee under the strategic framework agreement we have with Iraq that focused on economic cooperation, energy sector development, and climate change. In Washington, the foreign minister and Prime Minister Sudanese advisors laid out a plan to diversify Iraq's economy from being more than just an oil exporting country to a country with vibrant private industries where the private sector is the main engine of economic growth. In addition to the meetings with Secretary of State Blinken and other senior government officials, the Foreign Minister's delegation met with the U.S.-Iraq Business Council under the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and about 40 U.S. companies, inviting them to play a role in Iraq's economic development, including in growing Iraq's nascent private sector. I came away from this trip confident in growing Iraq's private sector and in the strong and expanding relationship between Iraq and the United States, and excited for the opportunities to foster great real growth in Iraq's economic future. For Iraq to realize this bright future, it must do at least three things: invest in critical infrastructure, combat corruption, and create a business environment that is favorable to direct foreign investment. And by that I mean encouraging foreign companies to bring both their capital and their expertise to Iraq, and where these investments generate jobs and companies train Iraqis to run their own businesses. There is no better place to focus these opportunities than the energy sector, specifically the country's electricity grid and oil and gas field development, including gas capture. These areas capture both Iraq's greatest source of revenue and its greatest constraint on economic growth. We all know electricity demand will only grow, and there is promising potential for investment and improvement. I've spoken with the Minister of Oil, the Minister of Electricity, and the Prime Minister's new advisor on energy, all of whom have laid out a vision for modernizing the energy industry, not just in the oil sector, but by capturing and using the vast amounts of gas in Iraq to help develop the electricity sector to meet the power demands of a growing economy. The Biden administration is encouraging U.S. energy companies, those already in Iraq and new ones, to explore opportunities in Iraq and where they could bring their world-class expertise and generate jobs for Iraqis. On Thursday, just the other day, General Electric and the Ministry of Electricity signed an MOU to develop the energy sector in production, transmission, maintenance, staff training, and reducing carbon emissions. And there is certainly room for many more other companies. Strengthening Iraq's energy sector will require significant investment. Gas capture plants will have to be built, along with new power plants to use the additional gas. The electricity grid will have to be upgraded and modernized to make sure that 50% of power that is currently lost in transportation due to theft and poor equipment can instead be harnessed to power Iraqi homes and businesses. This is why energy infrastructure is an obvious place to start with investment. Iraq has a valuable pre-existing resource that has the potential to advantage not just the Iraqi citizens, but the economy especially since the lack of electricity is one of the largest constraints facing manufacturing and industry today. In the gas field, Iraq has both a challenge and an opportunity. After Russia, Iraq is the highest emitter of flared gas in the world, and this causes severe environmental problems. Capturing the gas that is currently flared would dramatically improve Iraq's climate, allowing Iraqis to breathe cleaner air, drink cleaner water, and suffer less from debilitating diseases as cancer. But capturing gas is also an economic opportunity. Most assessments conclude that if the amount of gas flared in Iraq today was processed in a new electricity generating power plants, Iraq could double the total amount of its electricity production and meet the current shortages. By using captured gas to power electric generators, Iraq could dramatically increase the amount of electricity available to its people, as much as 3,500 megawatts of additional electricity, or an increase of 25% to the entire country's electrical grid. To fully take advantage of developing the energy sector, we must also address the important challenge of the business climate and corruption. The business environment must convince foreign companies that their investments are protected, and the regulatory climate is predictable, transparent, and honest. Also, companies, especially those that are going to do business with the government, must know they will get paid on time. And finally, the bureaucracy itself must modernize, efficiently process contracts and projects, and streamline the processes for companies, both foreign and domestic, to do business here. When companies compare opportunities to do business, they almost always choose those with less risk and greater ease of doing business. In today's fast-moving global economy, time matters to international investors. So let me conclude by saying that modernizing Iraq's energy sector is key to Iraq's ability to become a secure, stable, and sovereign country that can provide for its own people using its own vast natural resources. In Washington last week, the Biden administration launched a new, expanded version for Iraq focused on economic development. The United States is committed to working with Prime Minister Soudani's government to create new opportunities that strengthen the economic interests of both our countries and the region. American companies are ready to invest and participate in modernizing Iraq's energy sector to the benefit of Iraq's sovereignty and its environment, and help build a more secure future for Iraqi people. We are continuing this conversation with Prime Minister Soudani while he and his team are at the Munich Security Conference this weekend, and we look forward to working with the government of Iraq, the private sector, including other Western companies, and directly with the Iraqi people to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable officials, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum. I'm honored to be here today, and I want to thank the conference organizers, Iraq Business Gateway, for inviting me to speak at this important moment in Iraq's development. Canada has been a long-term partner and advocate for Iraq. Canada is working with Iraq in the context of its post-conflict recovery and long-term development objectives. This includes support aimed at strengthening the capacity of Iraqi institutions, promoting inclusive governance, and strengthening women's rights and empowerment by supporting their roles in reconciliation and decision-making, and also their role in the economy. Over 6 years, between 2016 and 2022, Canada has invested over $4 billion to respond to the crises in Iraq and Syria, and to address their regional impacts. As Iraq looks to secure its future and advance its national priorities, including strengthening youth development and reducing unemployment and underemployment, Canada's development programming is sought to support the capacity building of Iraqi institutions and its citizens in key areas to encourage education and growth that works for everyone, especially women and girls. Women's engagement is vital to Iraq reaching its full potential, and this includes in the extractive industries. Canada is a partner for Iraq and seeks to support Iraq's economic, social, and security development to ensure a bright future for the Iraqi people. This includes closer integration into the international economy and fully realizing the potential of Iraq's natural resources while addressing the environmental impacts of the extractive sector in order to protect the health and wellness of the Iraqi people. Canada's oil and gas industry is characterized by good governance, sound management, fairness, transparency, and innovation. We have deep knowledge and expertise in the oil sector, as Canada is the 4th largest producer of oil in the world and the 6th largest producer of natural gas. Unlike Iraq, Canadian oil is more difficult to extract. So Canada has had to develop numerous innovations in the oil sector to extract our resources cost effectively while mitigating environmental impacts. As a result, Canada has become a world leader in digital oil and gas technologies, water technology for oil and gas, land and well site reclamation, pipeline security and maintenance, as well as methane monitoring and gas capture. Canada is ready to work with Iraq to tackle flaring in a way that generates new sources of revenue and contributes to protecting the environment. We can share expertise and technology related to the extraction of heavy crude oil, processing of oil and sour gas, and rehabilitating oil pipelines, as well as implementing renewable energy sources such as solar energy, which has tremendous potential here. Canada is committed to sharing its experience by helping Iraq improve production through new, more efficient technologies and to train and equipping the Iraqi workforce to reach the highest international standards. During my last meeting at the Ministry of Oil, we discussed the importance of carbon reduction policy. I was pleased to learn of the Iraqi government's efforts to improve management of its oil resources and to pass a national oil and gas law while seeking to tackle corruption and join international efforts to address climate change. Canada is not only an energy powerhouse, but also a clean tech leader. The sector will focus on ways to develop its resources in a very carbon-constrained world, including reducing emissions intensity from existing technologies, including solvents, carbon capture and storage, and methane, unlocking energy value without carbon in a manner consistent with climate objectives, and the application of broader decarbonization work in the natural resource sector. To be competitive going forward, whether in Canada or in Iraq, oil and gas producers will need to continuously strive to lower costs, improve productivity, reduce the carbon intensity of their operations, and be leaders in environmentally responsible development. Sustainability innovation has driven improvement in the environmental performance of the global oil and gas sector, in particular, including lowering greenhouse gas emissions intensity, reduced freshwater use intensity, and lower land disturbances. Oil and gas companies and related product use in-house developing clean sector solutions that are specific to the needs of the sector. Canadian companies are looking forward to opportunities to work together with Iraqi partners. I encourage you to speak with our Canadian trade commissioners in Baghdad and Erbil and to learn more about the innovative Canadian companies and their products and services. There is much potential in Iraq, and Canadian companies are increasingly interested in doing business here. There is much we can do together. Shukran.